Clara Whitmore hit the frozen ground hard. Her knees cracked against ice. Her hands tore open on gravel. Behind her, the stagecoach driver whipped his horses and vanished into the blizzard without looking back. New Year's Eve, 1879. 17 cents in her pocket. No food, no shelter. No one in the world who'd notice if she died tonight. Then she heard it. A child screaming. "Papa! Papa! I can't feel my fingers!" Clara ran toward that voice. She didn't know it yet, but she was running toward everything. Follow this story to the end and comment what city you're watching from, so I can see how far this tale has traveled. The end. Just so. Clara's boots punched through snow as she ran. The screaming got louder. A little girl's voice high and terrified. "Papa, it hurts. My hands hurt." She rounded the corner of the general store and stopped dead. 5 children, huddled on a wooden porch like abandoned puppies. The oldest, a girl, maybe 14, was rubbing a smaller child's hands between her own, blowing on them, her breath coming in panicked gasps. "It's all right, Lily. It's all right. I got you." "Grace, I'm scared." The little one couldn't be more than 5. "I can't feel nothing." A man knelt beside them, pulling off his own gloves and pressing them onto the child's frozen fingers. He was big, broad-shouldered, his face half hidden by a battered hat. "Hold on, baby girl. Papa's here. Papa's got you." Clara didn't think. She dropped to her knees beside them and grabbed the child's hands. "Rub gentle," she said. "Not hard. You'll damage the skin. Here like this." The man's head snapped up. Gray eyes sharp as flint locked onto her face. "Who the hell are you?" "Somebody who knows frostbite when she sees it." Clara kept her voice steady, her hands working. "This little one needs to get warm. Now. Not in 5 minutes. Now." "You think I don't know that?" His voice cracked. "Hotel's full. Boarding house is full. Every blamed room in this town is full because half of Montana decided to ring in the new year in Silver Springs." The oldest girl looked up. "Papa tried everywhere. Nobody would take us." "Even the livery said no," a younger girl added. "Maybe 8 with fierce eyes and a stubborn jaw. Said they didn't have room for kids. We ain't wanted nowhere." Clara's chest tightened. She knew that feeling. Knew it down to her bones. "What's your name, sweetheart?" she asked the freezing child. Lily." "That's real pretty. I'm Clara. Now, Lily, I need you to keep wiggling your fingers for me. Can you do that? Even if it hurts?" The little girl nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You got medical training." The man was watching her with suspicion and something else. Hope, maybe. Desperate hope. "My mama was a midwife. Taught me plenty before she passed." "Where'd you come from? I ain't seen you in town before." "Just got off the stage." Clara jerked her head toward the street. "Driver left me in the dirt and took off. Reckon he had somewhere warm to be." "You got kin here? Someone expecting you?" "No." "A room?" "No." "Money?" Clara almost laughed. "Mister, I got 17 cents, 2 dresses, and a whole lot of nothing else. That answer your questions." A boy's face appeared from behind the oldest girl. Couldn't be more than 4, with the same gray eyes as the man. He was shivering so hard his teeth chattered. "Papa, is she gonna help us?" "I don't know, Will." The man's voice softened when he talked to the boy. "I don't know her." "She's got kind hands," Will said. "Like Mama had." Something flickered across the man's face. Pain. Old pain that never really healed. "How many young'uns you got?" Clara asked, still working on Lily's circulation. 5. Grace is 14. Hannah's 11. He pointed at a quiet girl with big eyes who hadn't said a word. "Sarah's 8. Lily's 5. And Will here just turned 4. Their mama? Dead. 4 years now." He said it flat, like he'd said it 1,000 times. "Will was born the night she passed." Clara's hands stilled for just a moment. The little boy who'd asked about kind hands, born the night his mama died. "I'm sorry," she said. Truly. Don't need sorry. Need somewhere warm for my children. He stood up, running his hand through his hair. I've tried everything. Everything. Even asked old Miller if we could sleep in his barn with the horses. He said no. Said he didn't want kids making noise and spooking the animals. That's cruel. That's Silver Springs. The oldest girl, Grace, spoke with bitterness no child should carry. People see a man with 5 kids and no wife. They don't see someone who needs help. They see trouble. The 8-year-old Sarah crossed her arms. Mrs. Pemberton at the boarding house said we was too much of a burden, right to Papa's face. I wanted to kick her shins. Sarah, the man warned. Well, I did. She ain't got no right to talk to you like that. You're a good papa, the best papa. His jaw tightened. Clara saw shame there. The shame of a man who couldn't provide for his own. She knew that shame too. Different circumstances, same bitter taste. A man in a black wool coat walked past the porch. He slowed when he saw them, and his lip curled. Well, well, Sam Thornton playing the poor widower again. How touching. The big man, Sam, went rigid. Keep walking, Cornelius. Freezing your children on a storefront porch. Your wife would be so proud. Sam took a step forward. You say her name, I'll knock your teeth down your throat. The man in the black coat laughed. Temper. That's what got you in trouble before, isn't it? That's why no one in this town will lift a finger for you. He glanced at Clara, his eyes cold and calculating. Who's this another charity case you've picked up? None of your concern. Everything that happens in this territory is my concern, Thornton. You'd do well to remember that. He tipped his hat with mock courtesy. Happy New Year. Try not to let any of them freeze to death. The paperwork would be tedious. He walked away, his boots crunching on the frozen ground. Who was that? Clara asked. Cornelius Blackwood. Sam spat the name like poison. Owns the biggest spread north of here. Been trying to take my ranch for 5 years now. Take it how? Any way he can. Legal, illegal don't matter to him. Sam's hands clenched. Half this town's in his pocket. That's why nobody'll help us. They're scared of what he'll do if they show kindness to a Thornton. Clara looked at the children. 5 of them shivering, scared, caught in the middle of something they didn't understand. Your ranch, she said slowly. How far? 3 hours' ride. Would have been 2 if the weather wasn't so bad. You can't take them out in this. Not tonight. You think I don't know that? His voice was raw. I know, ma'am. I know everything. I know my children are freezing. I know nobody wants us here. I know I can't fix any of it. He looked at her with eyes that had seen too much loss. I know I'm failing them, same way I failed their mother. The church bell started ringing. Midnight. Happy New Year. Voices echoed from the saloon down the street. Laughter. Cheering. Gunshots fired into the air. On the porch, nobody celebrated. Will started to cry. Quiet, hopeless tears. I don't want it to be a new year, Papa. New Years are when bad things happen. Hush now, son. Mama died on a new year. You told me. She died right when the clock struck 12 and I got born. The boy's voice broke. Maybe if I didn't get born, Mama would still be here. Grace pulled him close. Will, don't say that. Don't ever say that. But it's true. Sarah told me. She said Mama died 'cause of me. Sarah. Sam's voice was sharp. The 8-year-old went pale. I didn't mean it how it sounded. I was mad. I was just being mean. She was 6 years old when Mama died. Grace held Will tighter. She didn't know what she was saying. I was sad, Sarah whispered. I missed Mama, and I wanted someone to blame. Will kept crying. It's okay. I blame me too. Clara's heart shattered. She moved without thinking, knelt in front of the little boy, and took his face in her hands. You listen to me, Will Thornton. You listening?" He nodded, sniffling. "Your mama dying wasn't nobody's fault. Not yours, not your papa's, not anyone's. Sometimes people die, and there ain't no reason for it. It's just cruel, and it's just unfair, and it don't make any sense. But it ain't your fault. You hear me? It ain't your fault." "How do you know?" "Because I lost someone too. My husband. He got sick and he died, and for a long time I thought maybe it was my fault. Maybe I didn't pray hard enough, or love him good enough, or do something right." She wiped the tears from his cheeks with her thumbs. "But that's a lie we tell ourselves because the truth is too hard. The truth is that sometimes bad things happen to good people, and there ain't nothing we could have done to stop it." Will stared at her. "You really believe that?" "I'm trying to. Every single day I'm trying to." Sam watched the exchange without moving. When Clara finally let go of Will's face, when the boy had stopped crying and was leaning against his oldest sister, Sam spoke. "You lost your husband. 2 years ago, consumption. And his family. Where are they? Threw me out." Clara stood brushing snow off her skirts. "I couldn't give him children, so they said I was useless. Put me on a stage headed west and told me never to come back. They threw you out for being barren. On Christmas Eve. Said there wasn't no point in wasting food on a woman who couldn't earn her keep." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "So here I am, end of the line. Nothing ahead of me, nothing behind me. Just 17 cents and a new year I didn't ask for." Hannah, the quiet 11-year-old, spoke up for the first time. "That's the saddest thing I ever heard. Don't waste your pity on me, sweetheart. Save it for someone who deserves it." "Everyone deserves pity," Hannah said softly. "Mama used to say that." Clara's throat tightened. "Your mama sounds like she was a wise woman." "She was." Grace's voice was thick. "She was the best. And now she's gone and we got nobody and we're gonna freeze to death on this stupid porch." "You ain't gonna freeze to death." Clara said it before she could stop herself, before she could think it through. "I won't let that happen." Sam looked at her. "How exactly you planning to stop it? You got a magic room hidden somewhere, a warm fire nobody knows about." "No, but I got an idea." "What kind of idea?" Clara took a breath. This was crazy. This was the craziest thing she'd ever thought of doing. But crazy was all she had left. "You need help with your children. I need somewhere to go. That seems like a problem with one solution." Sam went still. "You're offering to work for me?" "I'm offering more than that." Clara met his eyes straight on. "I'm offering to marry you." Silence. 5 children stared at her. Sam's face went blank. "Come again." "You heard me? Marry me. Tonight, before the year is out." "Woman, are you out of your mind?" "Probably, but think about it." Clara stepped closer. "You're a widower with 5 young'uns who need a mother. I'm a widow with nothing and nobody. You need someone to run your household. I need a roof over my head. It's practical." "Practical." Sam repeated the word like he'd never heard it before. "Lady, I met you 10 minutes ago. So you think love matches work out any better? I married for love and look where it got me. Broke and alone in a blizzard." "Ruth's gonna kill me," Sam muttered. "Who's Ruth?" "Our housekeeper. Been with the family since before I was born. Loved my wife like a daughter." He ran his hand over his face. "She ain't gonna accept some stranger taking Mary's place." "I ain't taking nobody's place. I'm filling an empty spot. There's a difference." "You really believe that?" "I have to." Grace stepped forward. Papa, listen to her." "Grace, this is grown folks' business." "And I've been doing grown folks' work since I was 10 years old." The girl's voice was steady. "I've cooked and cleaned and raised babies and given up everything a normal girl gets to do. I don't mind. It's my family and I love them. But Papa, I'm tired. I'm so tired." Her voice cracked on the last word. "I don't want to be the mama anymore. I want to just be Grace. I want to read books and think about boys and not worry about whether Will's gonna have another nightmare or Lily's gonna cry for hours because she misses someone she never even met. Tears were streaming down her face now. If this lady's willing to help, if she's crazy enough to take us on, then let her. Please, Papa, let her. Sam looked at his oldest daughter. Something in his expression crumbled. Grace, I ain't asking you to love her. I'm asking you to let her help. Grace wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Ain't that what Mama would have wanted? Someone to help. Hannah moved to stand beside her sister. She held Lily. Nobody holds Lily except us, but Lily went right to her. Sarah nodded. And she made Will stop crying. Nobody makes Will stop crying. Not even you, Papa. She's got good hands, Will said softly. Like Mama. She smells nice. Lily added, her voice small. Like flowers. Can we keep her? Sam closed his eyes. Clara watched his shoulders rise and fall. He was fighting something inside himself. Pride, maybe. Fear. The memory of the wife he'd lost. This ain't how things are supposed to work, he said finally. Nothing in my life has worked the way it's supposed to, Clara replied. Has yours? He opened his eyes and looked at her. Really looked. Not with suspicion or curiosity, but with something deeper. Recognition. If I say yes, he said slowly, I need you to understand something. This wouldn't be a real marriage. Not that kind of marriage. You'd have your own room. I ain't expecting that. I'm just expecting partnership. That's all I'm offering. And you'd be walking into a war. Blackwood ain't gonna stop. He's been trying to take my land for years. Having a wife ain't gonna change that. Might make it worse. Then we'll fight him together. You don't know what he's capable of. I don't care. Clara lifted her chin. I've been thrown away by everyone who was supposed to love me. I've got nothing left to lose. That makes me dangerous. Sam stared at her for a long moment. The wind howled around them. His children shivered and waited. Then he laughed. Short, sharp, like a man who'd forgotten how. All right, he said. All right, Clara, whatever your name is. Let's go find a preacher. Whitmore, she said. Clara Josephine Whitmore. Sam Thornton. Samuel Jacob, if we're being formal. He held out his hand. Pleased to meet you. Clara took it. His grip was strong and warm despite the cold. Pleased to meet you too. Papa, are we really getting a new mama? Lily asked. Looks that way, baby girl. On New Year's. On New Year's. Lily smiled. The first smile Clara had seen on any of their faces. Mama always said New Year's was for new beginnings. Maybe she sent Miss Clara to us. Clara's eyes burned. She blinked hard and looked away. Reverend Caldwell lives on the other side of town, Sam said. It's a good walk in this weather. You children up for it? I can carry Lily, Grace offered. I got Will. Sam lifted the boy onto his back. Hannah, Sarah, stay close. Don't nobody wander off. What about Miss Clara? Sarah asked. She ain't got no gloves. Sam looked at Clara's bare red hands. Without a word, he pulled off one of his own gloves and handed it to her. I can manage with one, he said gruffly. Clara put on the glove. It was way too big, and it smelled like leather and pine. Somehow that made it better. Thank you, she said. Don't thank me yet. You ain't met Ruth. They walked through Silver Springs as 1880 was born. The town was celebrating around them. Music spilled from the saloon. Fireworks crackled in the sky. People danced in the streets, drunk and happy and oblivious. Nobody looked at them. Nobody offered help. They were invisible. A man with too many children and a woman with nothing at all. But Clara didn't feel invisible anymore. She felt seen. 5 children kept glancing back at her as they walked, making sure she was still there. Sam walked beside her, his stride shortened to match hers. You're really gonna do this? he said quietly. Marry a stranger. Take on 5 kids you never met before tonight. You're really gonna do this too. Let a stranger into your home. Trust her with your children. I ain't got much choice. Neither do I. Reckon that makes us even. He almost smiled. Reckon it does. Reverend Caldwell answered the door in his nightshirt, a candle in one hand and a look of pure confusion on his face. Sam Thornton. What in God's name is that? All your children at this hour, in this weather? We need a favor, Reverend. A big one. Come in, all of you. Good Lord, you're frozen solid. The Reverend ushered them into a warm parlor. His wife appeared moments later, already fussing, wrapping blankets around children and stoking the fire. What's happened? Reverend Caldwell asked. Is something wrong at the ranch? Nothing's wrong. Well, nothing new. Sam pulled off his hat and twisted it in his hands. I need you to marry me. The Reverend's eyebrows shot up. I beg your pardon. I need you to marry me, tonight, now. Sam, it's past midnight. On New Year's Eve, you can't be serious. Dead serious. Sam put his hand on Clara's shoulder. This is Clara Whitmore. She's agreed to be my wife. Reverend Caldwell looked at Clara, then at Sam, then back at Clara. Mrs. Whitmore, have you been coerced in any way? No, sir. Do you understand what you're agreeing to? Marriage is sacred, binding, not something to enter into lightly. Clara looked at the 5 children huddled by the fire. Grace had Lily in her lap. Hannah was sharing a blanket with Sarah. Will was already dozing against a cushion, his face peaceful for the first time all night. I understand perfectly, Reverend. I'm agreeing to a family. That's the most sacred thing I can think of. The ceremony was quick. Clara stood beside Sam in the Reverend's parlor, both of them still damp and shivering. Mrs. Caldwell served as witness alongside the 5 children. Do you, Samuel Jacob Thornton, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do. Do you, Clara Josephine Whitmore, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband? Clara looked at Sam. This man she'd known for an hour. This stranger who was about to become her family. I do. Then by the power vested in me by the Montana Territory, I pronounce you man and wife. You may kiss the bride. Sam hesitated. Clara saved him by standing on her toes and pressing a quick kiss to his cheek. There, she said softly. Done. Lily clapped her hands. Papa got married. Papa got married on New Year's. Does this mean we can call her Mama? Will asked, rubbing his eyes. Clara knelt down to his level. You can call me whatever feels right, Will. I ain't here to replace your real mama. I'm just here to help. What if I want to call you Mama? Her heart squeezed. Then I'd be honored. Will smiled sleepy and sweet and reached for her hand. Clara took it. Chimbe. Grace stood apart from the celebration. Her arms crossed, her expression unreadable. Clara approached her carefully. I know this is hard for you, Clara said quietly. You've been holding this family together for years. Having a stranger walk in and take over must feel like you're stealing something, Grace finished. Like you're taking the one thing I was good at. That ain't what's happening. You've done an amazing job, Grace. Better than most grown women could have done. But you shouldn't have had to. You're 14. You should be worrying about dresses and dances, not whether your baby brother's gonna have nightmares. Grace's jaw tightened. Someone had to do it. And you did. But now someone else can help carry the load. Clara touched the girl's arm. I ain't your enemy, Grace. I ain't trying to replace your mama or push you aside. I'm just trying to be useful. Can you give me a chance? Grace was quiet for a long moment. Then slowly she nodded. Ruth ain't gonna make it easy for you. So I've heard. She'll test you, push you, try to make you quit. I don't quit easy. Neither did Mama. Grace's voice cracked slightly. That's what killed her. Clara didn't know what to say to that, so she just squeezed the girl's arm and let the silence speak. The Reverend insisted they stay the night. By the time everyone was settled, it was nearly 3 in the morning. Clara found herself alone with Sam in the kitchen. He was nursing a cup of coffee, staring into the fire. "You should know what you're walking into," he said without looking at her. "The Thornton Creek Ranch ain't just a home. It's a battlefield. Blackwood. Blackwood." Sam's grip tightened on his cup. "He wants my water rights. The creek that runs through my property feeds his land too. Without it, his cattle would die. With it, he controls half the territory. And he can't just buy the rights. I won't sell. My father built that ranch from nothing. His father before him. 4 generations of Thorntons have lived and died on that land. I ain't giving it up for any price." So he's trying to take it. Every way he knows how. Cutting fences, running off hands, poisoning the town against me. Sam finally looked at her. "Tonight wasn't the first time nobody would give us a room. It's been like this for years. People are scared of Blackwood. They don't want to cross him." Clara thought about the man in the black coat, his cold eyes, his mocking smile. "He'll come after me too," she said. "Once he hears you got married." "Probably. You still want to stay?" "Even more now." Clara sat down across from him. "I've been pushed around my whole life. First by my family, then by my husband's family. I'm done being pushed. If Blackwood wants a fight, he'll get one." Sam studied her face. "You really ain't scared of nothing, are you?" "I'm scared of plenty. But I learned something these past 2 years. Fear don't stop bad things from happening. It just makes you miserable while you wait for them." "There's something else you should know," Sam said, "about Will, about how Mary died." Clara waited. "The doctor told her not to have any more children, said her heart wasn't strong enough, but she was desperate to give me a son, said I needed one to carry on the Thornton name." His voice went rough. "I told her I didn't care, told her 4 daughters were more than enough, but she wouldn't listen. She got pregnant anyway. And it killed her, just like the doctor said it would." Sam's hands were shaking. "She died in my arms, Clara. Right after Will was born. The last thing she said was, 'I'm sorry. I'm sorry I couldn't give you more.'" Clara's eyes burned. "That wasn't your fault. I could have stopped her. Could have been more firm. Could have—" "You loved her. You couldn't deny her what she wanted." Clara reached across the table and covered his hand with hers. "That ain't weakness. That's love." "Love killed her." "No. Bad luck killed her. A weak heart killed her. You didn't do nothing wrong, Sam. You loved your wife and she loved you, and sometimes that ain't enough to save people. But it don't mean the love was wrong." He looked at their hands, her small fingers over his rough, calloused ones. "You're a strange woman, Clara Thornton. That's the first time you've called me by my new name." "Reckon it is." He turned his hand over and squeezed hers briefly. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. Ruth. Ruth." He almost smiled. "God help us both." Clara lay awake in the Reverend's guest room, listening to the wind die down outside. Somewhere in the house, one of the children coughed. Will, probably. She thought about what she'd done. Married a stranger. Taken on 5 children. Walked into the middle of a war she didn't fully understand. It was insane. It was reckless. It was the only choice she'd had. But lying there in the dark, wearing a borrowed nightgown, a new ring on her finger, Clara didn't feel scared. She felt something she hadn't felt in 2 years. Hope. Outside the window, the first light of 1880 was creeping over the Montana mountains. A new year. A new beginning. Tomorrow, she would meet Ruth. Tomorrow, she would see the ranch. Tomorrow, the real work would begin. But tonight, she was warm. She was safe. She was somebody's wife. And for the first time in a very long time, Clara Whitmore. No Clara Thornton. Fell asleep, smiling. The wagon hit a rut, and Clara grabbed the seat to keep from falling. Will was asleep against her shoulder, his small body warm and trusting. Lily sat on her other side, holding Clara's hand like she'd done it her whole life. "Almost there," Sam said from the driver's seat. "Just over that ridge." They'd left Silver Springs at dawn, the children bundled in every blanket the Reverend's wife could spare. The storm had passed, leaving behind a world of white that sparkled under the winter sun. Beautiful, Clara supposed, if you weren't freezing to death. Grace sat in the back with Hannah and Sarah, her face turned away from Clara. She hadn't spoken a word all morning. The tentative truce from last night seemed to have frozen over, along with everything else. "Papa, I'm hungry," Sarah said. "I know, sweetheart. Ruth will have something ready when we get home." "Will Ruth be mad that you got married?" Hannah asked quietly. Sam's shoulders tensed. "Ruth will have opinions. She always does." "That means yes," Sarah muttered. The wagon crested the ridge, and Clara saw it. Thornton Creek Ranch spread out below them like something from a painting. A large two-story house built from rough-hewn logs, a massive barn, corrals and outbuildings dotted across the property, and cutting through the middle of it all, a creek that glittered like silver in the morning light. "It's beautiful," Clara breathed. "It's home," Sam said simply. "4 generations of Thorntons have lived and died here. My grandfather built that house with his own hands. My father expanded the barn. I added the north pasture." "And what will you add?" Sam glanced at her. "Stability, I hope. A future for my children." Clara looked down at Will's sleeping face, at Lily's small hand in hers. "That's a good thing to want." The wagon rolled down the hill toward the house. As they approached, the front door swung open and a woman emerged. Tall, rail-thin, with gray-streaked hair pulled back in a severe bun. Her face looked like it had been carved from granite. "That's Ruth," Grace said flatly. "Good luck." Ruth Hawkins stood on the porch with her arms crossed and her eyes narrowed as the wagon pulled to a stop. She didn't smile. She didn't wave. She just stood there, radiating disapproval, like heat from a stove. "Samuel Jacob Thornton," she said, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "You better have a good explanation for why you're 2 days late and why there's a strange woman sitting in your wagon holding your children." Sam climbed down and helped Clara after him. "Ruth, this is Clara, my wife." The silence that followed was so complete Clara could hear the creek bubbling in the distance. "You're what?" "My wife. We were married last night by Reverend Caldwell." Ruth's face went through several expressions: shock, disbelief, anger. Then something colder, something that made Clara's stomach clench. "You married a stranger." Ruth's voice was deadly quiet. "You married some woman you picked up God knows where, and you brought her into Mary's house." "It ain't Mary's house anymore, Ruth. Mary's been dead 4 years. Don't you dare." Ruth stepped off the porch, her finger jabbing toward Sam's chest. "Don't you dare speak to me about Mary like she's just some memory to be boxed up and forgotten. I raised that girl. I love that girl. And I watched her die in that bedroom giving you a son you didn't even ask for." "Ruth." "No, you don't get to Ruth me, not today." She turned to Clara, and the contempt in her eyes was like a physical blow. "Who are you? Where did you come from? What do you want?" Clara lifted her chin. "My name is Clara Whitmore. Thornton now. I came from Philadelphia originally, and what I want is to help this family." "Help?" Ruth laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You want to help? Let me guess. You saw a wealthy widower with a big ranch and you thought you'd found yourself an easy life." "I saw 5 children freezing on a store porch because nobody in town would give them shelter. I saw a man trying to hold his family together with nothing but stubbornness and prayer. And I saw a chance to be useful for the first time in 2 years." "Useful?" Ruth spat the word. What can you do that's useful? Can you cook for 8 people 3 times a day? Can you wash clothes in water so cold it cracks your hands? Can you birth a calf or stitch a wound or keep a house standing through a Montana winter? I can learn. Learning ain't the same as doing. Then teach me. Ruth stared at her. Clara stared back. Neither of them blinked. Ruth, Sam's voice was tired. I ain't asking you to like her. I'm asking you to give her a chance. The children need help. I need help. This is the solution I found. The solution you found is going to destroy everything Mary built. Mary's gone, Ruth. She ain't coming back. And these children need a mother, not a ghost. The words hung in the frozen air. Ruth's face crumpled for just a moment, showing the grief underneath the anger. Then it hardened again. Fine, she said. Bring her in. But don't expect me to hold her hand while she figures out which end of a broom to use. She turned and walked back into the house, slamming the door behind her. Sam let out a long breath. Well, that went better than I expected. Clara stared at him. That was better. She didn't throw anything. The inside of the house was warm at least. A fire crackled in a large stone fireplace, and the smell of coffee and bacon filled the air. Clara's stomach growled. Ruth was already at the stove banging pots with more force than necessary. Children, wash up. Breakfast in 10 minutes. The kids scattered, leaving Clara standing awkwardly in the middle of the room. She didn't know where anything was. Didn't know what she was supposed to do. Didn't know how to make herself useful in a house that clearly didn't want her. The bedroom's upstairs, Sam said quietly. Second door on the right. It was Mary's room. I've been sleeping in my office since she passed. Where will you sleep now? Same place. Nothing needs to change on that account. Clara nodded, relieved. The marriage was practical, not romantic. She had to remember that. She climbed the stairs and found the door Sam had described. When she opened it, her breath caught. The room was beautiful. Delicate lace curtains on the windows, a quilt in soft blues and greens on the bed, a vanity with a silver-backed brush and mirror. But everything was covered in a fine layer of dust, and the air smelled stale and sad. A room preserved like a shrine waiting for someone who would never return. That was Mama's room. Clara turned. Grace stood in the doorway, her arms crossed, her expression unreadable. I know, Clara said. Your papa told me. Ruth hasn't let anyone touch it since Mama died. She comes in sometimes to dust, but she won't move anything. Says it would be disrespectful. Clara looked around at the frozen memories. It must be hard, keeping everything exactly the same. It's what Mama would have wanted. Is it? Or is it what Ruth wants to believe she would have wanted? Grace's eyes flashed. You didn't know my Mama. You don't get to say what she would have wanted. You're right. I didn't know her. I'm sorry. Clara sat on the edge of the bed, ignoring the dust. But I know something about loss, Grace. And I know that sometimes holding on too tight to the past makes it impossible to move forward. Maybe I don't want to move forward. Maybe I want things to stay exactly how they were. With you doing all the work raising your brothers and sisters while you're still a child yourself. Grace's jaw tightened. Someone had to. And you did beautifully, but you shouldn't have to anymore. So you're just going to waltz in here and take over, play mama to children you don't even know. Clara stood and faced the girl directly. I'm going to try to help. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to do things wrong. And you can hate me for it if you want, Grace. That's your right. But I ain't going anywhere. So we can spend the next however many years fighting each other, or we can figure out how to make this work. Grace stared at her for a long moment. Then she turned and walked away without a word. Clara sank back onto the bed and let out a shaky breath. This was going to be harder than she'd thought. Breakfast was a tense affair. Ruth slammed plates onto the table without looking at Clara. Grace sat as far away as possible. Only the younger children seemed unaffected, chattering about the snow and asking when they could go play outside. Eat your eggs, Will, Sam said. You need your strength. I don't like eggs. You liked them yesterday. Yesterday, they was different eggs. They came from the same chickens. The chickens were feeling different yesterday. Despite everything, Clara felt a smile tugging at her lips. Will caught her eye and grinned his gap-toothed smile, bright and mischievous. "Miss Clara, do you like eggs?" he asked. "I do, especially when they're cooked as well as these." She looked at Ruth. "These are delicious, Mrs. Hawkins. Thank you." Ruth's only response was a grunt. "Can Miss Clara take us outside after breakfast?" Lily asked. "I want to show her the chickens." "Miss Clara has work to do," Ruth said sharply. "If she's going to live here, she's going to earn her keep." "What would you like me to do?" Clara asked. Ruth turned and looked at her with cold assessment. "You ever scrubbed a floor?" "Yes." "Washed clothes in a tub?" "Yes." "Kneaded bread dough till your arms felt like they'd fall off?" "Yes." "Cleaned a chicken coop?" Clara paused. "No, but I can learn?" Ruth smiled, and it wasn't friendly. "Then that's where you'll start. The chicken coop hasn't been mucked out in 2 weeks. Should keep you busy till lunch." The chicken coop was worse than Clara had imagined. The smell hit her like a wall when she opened the door, and she had to fight not to gag. Dozens of chickens clucked and scattered as she entered, their feathers stirring up dust that made her eyes water. "You'll need this." Clara turned. Hannah stood in the doorway holding out a shovel and a pair of work gloves. "Thank you, Hannah." The girl shrugged. "Ruth's testing you. She wants to see if you'll quit." "I won't quit." That's what the last one said. "The woman Papa hired 2 years ago to help with the house. She lasted 3 days." Clara pulled on the gloves. "What happened to her?" "Ruth made her life miserable. Criticized everything she did. Gave her the worst jobs. Made her feel stupid and useless." Hannah's voice was matter-of-fact. She cried every night. On the 3rd day, she packed her things and left. Ruth drove her away on purpose. Ruth doesn't want anyone here who isn't family. She thinks strangers will ruin what Mama built. Clara looked at the mountains of chicken droppings she was expected to clean. "And what do you think, Hannah?" The girl was quiet for a moment. "I think Mama's been gone a long time, and I think Grace is tired, and I think Will and Lily don't even remember what it's like to have a mama." She met Clara's eyes. "I think maybe you could be good for us, if Ruth lets you." Then she turned and walked away, leaving Clara alone with the chickens and the stench and the impossible task ahead of her. Clara worked for 3 hours. Her back screamed. Her arms ached. The smell seeped into her clothes, her hair, her skin. But she didn't stop. She shoveled and scraped and hauled bucket after bucket of waste to the compost pile behind the barn. By the time she finished, her dress was ruined beyond repair, but the chicken coop was cleaner than it had been in months. She walked back to the house expecting some acknowledgement from Ruth, some grudging approval for a job well done. Instead, Ruth handed her a basket of laundry. "Clothes need washing, tubs out back, water's in the well." Clara took the basket without a word. The water was so cold it made her hands cramp. She scrubbed and wrung and scrubbed again. Her fingers turning red, then white, then numb. By the time she hung the last shirt on the line, she could barely feel her arms. Ruth appeared with a bucket of potatoes. "These need peeling for supper." Clara peeled potatoes. Then she swept the floors. Then she hauled firewood. Then she helped Ruth prepare dinner for 8 people, learning as she went, making mistakes, and fixing them, never complaining, never stopping. By the time supper was served, Clara could barely keep her eyes open. Every muscle in her body throbbed. Her hands were raw and bleeding in places. But she sat at the table with the family and ate her meal without a word of complaint. "You didn't quit," Ruth said. Clara looked up. It was the first thing Ruth had said to her directly since breakfast. "No, ma'am, I didn't. Most folks would have. I ain't most folks." Ruth studied her for a long moment. Then she stood and began clearing plates. "Breakfast is at 6. Don't be late." It wasn't acceptance. It wasn't even respect. But it was something. A crack in the wall Ruth had built around herself. Clara would take it. That night, Clara sat alone in Mary's room. Her room now too exhausted to undress for bed. Her body ached in places she didn't know could ache. Her hands were torn and blistered. And tomorrow would be more of the same. A soft knock came at the door. "Come in?" Will poked his head inside his stuffed rabbit clutched in his arms. "Miss Clara, I can't sleep." "What's wrong, sweetheart?" "I had a bad dream. About Mama. About the night she died." Clara's heart clenched. She opened her arms and Will ran to her, burying his face against her shoulder. It was dark and cold, and Mama was crying, and then she wasn't crying anymore, and Papa was screaming, and his small body shook with sobs. "Hush now. Hush." Clara rocked him gently. "It was just a dream. You're safe. You're home." "But Mama isn't. Mama's never coming home." "No, sweetheart, she isn't. But that doesn't mean she's not still with you." Will looked up, his eyes red and wet. "How can she be with me if she's dead?" Clara thought about her own mother, her husband, all the people she'd lost along the way. When someone loves us, really loves us, they leave a piece of themselves behind, in our hearts, in our memories, in the way we laugh or smile or see the world. She wiped the tears from his cheeks. "Your Mama's inside you, Will. In your kind eyes and your gentle heart. Every time you do something good, every time you show love to your sisters, that's your Mama working through you." "You think so?" "I know so." Will sniffled. "Miss Clara, can I sleep here tonight just this once?" Clara should have said no. Should have sent him back to his own bed. But she looked at his small, scared face, and she couldn't. "Just this once," she said. She tucked him under the quilts and lay down beside him, still wearing her ruined dress. Within minutes, his breathing evened out, and he was asleep, his small hand curled around her finger. Clara stared at the ceiling and thought about what she'd gotten herself into. A hostile housekeeper who wanted her gone. A teenage girl who resented her presence. An enemy who wanted to destroy everything this family had built. But also this. A little boy who needed comfort. A little girl who wanted a mother. A family that was broken and hurting and desperate for someone to help put them back together. For the first time in her life, Clara Thornton felt like she knew exactly where she was supposed to be. The second day was harder than the first, and the third was harder than the second. Ruth found endless tasks for Clara to do, each one dirtier and more exhausting than the last. Muck the stalls, scrub the floors, wash the windows, churn the butter. Clara did it all without complaint. By the end of the first week, her hands had developed calluses thick enough to rival any ranch hands. Her muscles had adapted to the constant labor, and she'd learned enough about running a frontier household to feel like she wasn't completely useless. But Ruth still wouldn't speak to her beyond issuing orders. Grace still avoided her whenever possible, and the shadow of Mary Thornton still hung over the house like a ghost that refused to rest. It was Sarah who broke the stalemate. Clara was in the kitchen attempting to make biscuits under Ruth's critical eye when the 8-year-old burst through the door, blood streaming from her forehead. "Sarah." Clara dropped her spoon and ran to the girl. "What happened?" "Fell out of the hayloft. Hit my head on a beam." Ruth moved to help, but Clara was already there pressing a clean cloth to the wound, checking Sarah's eyes for signs of concussion. "Can you follow my finger?" Clara moved her hand slowly, left to right. Sarah tracked the movement perfectly. "It's just a cut. I've had worse." "Let me see." Clara gently lifted the cloth. The wound was long but shallow, bleeding heavily the way head wounds always did. "You'll need stitches." "I'll do it," Ruth said, reaching for her sewing kit. "No." Clara's voice was firm. "I've got steadier hands. My mother taught me." Ruth hesitated, clearly wanting to argue, but Sarah was already looking at Clara with trust in her eyes. "You'll be careful?" Sarah asked. "I'll be gentle as I can, but it's going to hurt some. You ready to be brave?" Sarah nodded. I'm always brave. Papa says Thorntons don't cry. Your papa's wrong about that. Thorntons can cry all they want. Crying don't make you weak. It just means you're human. Clara worked quickly and carefully, cleaning the wound, stitching it closed with small, even stitches. Sarah winced, but didn't cry out. When it was done, Clara wrapped a clean bandage around the girl's head. There. You'll have a scar, but it won't be too bad. Sarah touched the bandage gingerly. Will it be a good scar, the kind that makes you look tough? Clara laughed. The toughest. Sarah grinned. Then impulsively she threw her arms around Clara's neck. Thanks, Miss Clara. You're all right. Over Sarah's shoulder, Clara saw Ruth watching them. The older woman's expression was unreadable, but something in her eyes had shifted. Something small but significant. That night, for the first time, Ruth served Clara her dinner without slamming the plate. A week later, Clara was hanging laundry when she heard hoofbeats approaching. She looked up to see 3 men riding toward the house, led by a figure she recognized immediately. Cornelius Blackwood. Sam, Clara called toward the barn. Sam, we have visitors. Sam emerged from the barn, his face hardening when he saw who it was. He walked to stand beside Clara, his hand resting casually near the gun on his hip. Blackwood, you're on my property. Just a friendly visit, Thornton. Blackwood smiled, all teeth and no warmth. I heard you got yourself married. Had to come see for myself. You've seen. Now leave. Don't be rude. I haven't even congratulated the bride. Blackwood turned his cold eyes to Clara. Mrs. Thornton, quite a step up from wherever you came from, I imagine. I don't see how that's any of your business. Everything that happens in this territory is my business. He leaned forward in his saddle. I hope you know what you've married into, Mrs. Thornton. This ranch is failing. Sam here is too stubborn to admit it, but another bad winter and he'll lose everything. We'll manage, Sam said. Will you? With a stranger playing house and 5 children eating through your savings? Blackwood shook his head. I'm offering you a way out, Sam. Sell me the water rights. I'll pay fair price. You can take your new wife and your children somewhere warm, start over fresh. I ain't selling. Then you'll lose it all, one way or another. Blackwood's smile turned sharp. Think about it. I'm a patient man, but my patience has limits. He turned his horse and rode away, his men following. Clara watched them go, her heart pounding. He's not going to stop, she said quietly. No, he ain't. What do we do? Sam looked at her, and for the first time she saw fear in his eyes. Not for himself, but for his children, for his ranch, for everything he'd spent his life building. We fight, he said. We hold on as long as we can and we fight. Clara took his hand. His fingers tightened around hers. Then we fight together. That night, after the children were asleep, Clara found Ruth sitting alone in the kitchen, staring into the fire. May I sit? Clara asked. Ruth shrugged. Clara took that as permission. They sat in silence for a long moment. Then Ruth spoke. Mary would have hated you. Clara's stomach dropped. I see. She was jealous, possessive, terrified of losing Sam to anyone or anything. Ruth's voice was distant, remembering. I loved that girl like my own daughter, but I ain't blind to her faults. She wasn't as strong as she pretended to be. Why are you telling me this? Ruth finally looked at her. Because I've been watching you this past week. Watching you work till your hands bleed and never complain. Watching you with Will when he has nightmares. Watching you stitch up Sarah like you'd done it 100 times. I'm just doing what needs doing. That's exactly what Mary couldn't do. She tried, Lord knows she tried, but this life was too hard for her. It broke her piece by piece until there was nothing left. Ruth's eyes were bright with unshed tears. I blamed Sam for bringing her here. Blamed him for not seeing how much she was suffering. When she died, I swore I'd never let another woman into this house. Never let anyone try to replace her. I ain't trying to replace her, Ruth. I know. Ruth's voice cracked. That's what makes this so hard. You ain't trying to be Mary, you're just trying to be Clara, and maybe that's exactly what this family needs." Clara didn't know what to say, so she did what felt right. She reached out and took Ruth's weathered hand in her own. They sat there together, two women who'd started as enemies, watching the fire burn down to embers. When Clara finally went upstairs, she found something on her pillow. A single photograph in a silver frame. Mary Thornton. Beautiful and fragile, with sad eyes and a smile that didn't quite reach them. And on the back, in Ruth's careful handwriting, "Take care of them for me." Clara held the photograph to her chest and cried. Chapter 2. 3 weeks passed. Clara learned the rhythm of the ranch, the endless cycle of work that kept a frontier household alive. She learned which chickens laid best in the morning and which ones needed coaxing. She learned how to make biscuits that didn't taste like rocks and coffee strong enough to wake the dead. She learned the sounds of the house at night, the creaking boards and settling timbers, the different breathing patterns of 5 sleeping children. And slowly, carefully, she learned the children themselves. Lily was the easiest. The little girl had attached herself to Clara like a shadow, following her everywhere, helping with small tasks, chattering constantly about everything and nothing. She'd started calling Clara Mama within the first week, and every time she said it, Clara's heart cracked open a little more. Will was harder. His nightmares came almost every night now, and Clara spent hours holding him, rocking him, whispering comfort into the darkness. He was starting to believe her when she told him his mother's death wasn't his fault. Starting, but not quite there yet. Sarah was wild and wonderful, always dirty, always getting into trouble, always testing boundaries. Clara let her run free when she could and reined her in when she had to. They'd reached an understanding. Hannah was quiet, but observant, and Clara had discovered she loved books. Real books, not just the Bible and almanacs, that were all the ranch had to offer. Clara promised to find her more when spring came and the roads cleared. And Grace. Grace was still a fortress, walls up, drawbridge raised. She spoke to Clara only when necessary. She helped with chores, but kept her distance. She watched everything with those old, tired eyes. Clara didn't push. She just kept showing up day after day, proving she wasn't going anywhere. It was a Tuesday morning when everything changed. Clara was in the kitchen helping Ruth prepare breakfast when hoofbeats thundered into the yard. Sam came in from the barn, his face grim. "It's Deputy Marshal Morrison," he said. "Something's wrong." Clara wiped her hands on her apron and followed him outside. A lean man in a dusty coat sat on a tired horse, a folded paper in his hand. "Sam Thornton." "That's me." "I got a summons here from Judge Crawford." The deputy held out the paper. "You're ordered to appear at the Territorial Courthouse in Helena, 2 weeks from today." Sam took the paper, his jaw tightening as he read. "This says my marriage is under investigation, that there's been a complaint filed questioning its legitimacy." "That's right. Someone's claiming it's fraudulent. Says you married this woman under false pretenses for financial benefit." Clara's blood ran cold. "Who filed the complaint?" The deputy looked uncomfortable. "I ain't at liberty to say, ma'am, but I reckon you can guess." "Blackwood." Of course it was Blackwood. "This is nonsense," Sam said. "We were married by Reverend Caldwell. We have a certificate. Everything was done legal and proper." "That's for the judge to decide. I'm just delivering the summons." The deputy tipped his hat. 2 weeks. Don't be late." He rode away, leaving them standing in the frozen yard with a piece of paper that could destroy everything. "He can't do this," Clara said. "Can he? We're legally married?" Sam's face was hard. "Blackwood's got friends in Helena. Judges, politicians. He's been building power for years." He crumpled the summons in his fist. "He's going to try to have our marriage annulled. If he succeeds, you'll have no legal claim to stay here, and he'll use that to push for guardianship of the children." "Guardianship?" "He wants your children. He wants everything, Clara. The ranch, the water rights, all of it. If he can prove I'm an unfit father, if he can show I married some stranger just to have free help with my kids, he might convince a judge to take them from me. Clara felt the ground shift beneath her feet. Not just her future at stake now. The children. Her children. We won't let him. Sam looked at her, and she saw the fear he was trying to hide. I don't know if we can stop him. Then we'll fight anyway. The next 2 weeks were a blur of preparation and anxiety. Sam rode into town twice to consult with the only lawyer in Silver Springs, a nervous young man named Thomas Webb, who'd never argued a case in territorial court. It's not good, Webb told them on his second visit. Blackwood's claiming your marriage was a business transaction, not a genuine union. He's got witnesses who'll testify they saw you propose to Mrs. Thornton within minutes of meeting her. That's true, Clara said. But that don't make it fraudulent. No, but it makes it look bad. The judge is going to ask why a man would marry a complete stranger. He's going to ask about your sleeping arrangements, your relationship, whether this is a real marriage or just a legal convenience. Sam's face darkened. Our sleeping arrangements ain't anybody's business. They are if the marriage is being challenged. An unconsummated marriage can be annulled more easily than one that's been completed. Clara felt heat rise to her cheeks. She and Sam hadn't discussed that aspect of their arrangement since the first night. They had separate rooms. They barely touched except for the occasional brush of hands, the comforting presence during difficult moments. What exactly are you suggesting? Sam asked. Webb looked miserable. I'm suggesting that if you want this marriage to stand, you need to present yourselves as a genuine couple. Genuine in every way. After Webb left, Clara found Sam in his office, staring out the window at the snow-covered mountains. We don't have to do anything we don't want to, she said quietly. Whatever happens in that courtroom, we don't have to pretend to be something we're not. Sam turned to look at her. And if the judge decides our marriage isn't real, if he lets Blackwood take the children, then we'll find another way. We'll fight harder. There might not be another way, Clara. His voice cracked. I can't lose them. I can't lose my children. Clara crossed the room and took his hands. His fingers were cold despite the fire burning in the hearth. Listen to me, Sam Thornton. Those children love you. They need you. And no judge in the world is going to take them away from their father. You don't know that. I know what I've seen in this house. I know what kind of father you are. I know those kids would walk through fire for you. She squeezed his hands. We're going to walk into that courtroom together, and we're going to tell the truth. The truth is that we married for practical reasons, yes. But the truth is also that we've built something real in the weeks since then. Something worth protecting. Have we? Clara looked into his eyes, those gray eyes that had seemed so cold the first night she met him. They weren't cold now. They were scared and hopeful and searching for something to hold on to. I think we have, she said softly. Don't you? Sam didn't answer, but he didn't let go of her hands either. The night before they were set to leave for Helena, Grace came to Clara's room. She stood in the doorway, her face pale, her hands twisting nervously. Can I talk to you? Clara set down the dress she'd been mending. Of course, come in. Grace sat on the edge of the bed, not looking at Clara. I heard Papa talking to Mr. Webb. About the hearing. About what Blackwood's trying to do. Yes. He wants to take us away from Papa. He wants to try. That doesn't mean he'll succeed. Grace finally looked up, and Clara saw tears in her eyes. Real tears, the first she'd seen from this girl who held everything inside. I've been awful to you, Grace said. Since you got here, I've been cold and mean, and I've tried to make you feel like you don't belong. Grace. No, let me finish. I need to say this. The girl took a shaky breath. I was scared. When Mama died, everything fell apart. Papa was so sad he couldn't function. Ruth was grieving, and I had to hold everything together. I had to be the mother. You did an incredible job. I did what I had to, but I was terrified every single day. terrified I'd mess up, that something would happen to the little ones, that Papa would never recover. Grace wiped her eyes. And then you showed up, this stranger who wanted to take over. And I thought, if she takes my place, what am I? If I'm not the one holding this family together, who am I? Clara moved to sit beside her. You're Grace Thornton. You're a brave, strong, wonderful young woman who sacrificed her childhood to take care of people she loves. That doesn't change just because someone else is here to help. But I was so mean to you, and you just kept being kind, kept showing up, kept trying. Grace's voice broke. I don't understand why you didn't give up on us. Because you're worth fighting for, all of you. Clara put her arm around the girl's shoulders. I know I'm not your mama. I know I can never replace her. But I'd like to be your friend, Grace, if you'll let me. Grace was quiet for a long moment. Then she leaned into Clara's embrace, her thin shoulders shaking with sobs she'd been holding back for 4 years. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. Hush now. There's nothing to be sorry for. They sat together until Grace's tears ran dry. When she finally pulled back, something had shifted between them. The wall was down. The fortress had opened its gates. I'm coming to Helena, Grace said firmly. All of us are. We're going to tell that judge who you really are, what you've done for this family. Grace, you don't have to. Yes, I do. You fought for us. Now it's our turn to fight for you. The territorial courthouse in Helena was bigger than anything Clara had ever seen. It loomed over them as they climbed the steps. The children clustered close, Ruth bringing up the rear with a face like thunder. Thorntons don't show fear, Sam murmured. Heads up, all of you. They walked into the courtroom together, a united front. Clara saw Blackwood already seated at the front, looking smug and satisfied. Beside him was his daughter Victoria, pretty and uncomfortable, clearly wishing she were anywhere else. Judge Crawford was a stern-faced man with gray whiskers and sharp eyes. He watched them file in, his expression giving nothing away. All rise for the Honorable Judge Crawford. Everyone stood. Clara's heart hammered against her ribs. Be seated. We're here today to examine the validity of the marriage between Samuel Jacob Thornton and Clara Josephine Whitmore, contracted on December 31st, 1879. The judge shuffled his papers. Mr. Blackwood has filed a complaint alleging this union was fraudulent in nature. Mr. Blackwood, you may present your case. Blackwood stood, all false humility and poisoned charm. Thank you, Your Honor. My concerns are simple. I believe Mr. Thornton married this woman, a complete stranger he met on the street, for the sole purpose of acquiring free domestic labor and deceiving the community into believing he was capable of caring for his 5 children. Those are serious allegations, Judge Crawford said. Do you have evidence? I do. I have witnesses who saw Mr. Thornton propose to Mrs. Whitmore within minutes of meeting her. I have testimony that they maintained separate bedrooms, and I have documentation showing that Mrs. Whitmore was destitute and desperate at the time of the marriage, making her susceptible to exploitation. Clara's stomach churned. Everything he was saying was technically true, just twisted into something ugly. Furthermore, Blackwood continued, I have concerns about the welfare of the Thornton children. A man who would marry a stranger in such haste shows poor judgment. A woman who would accept such a proposal shows questionable character. I believe these children deserve better. And you're suggesting you could provide better? Judge Crawford asked. I'm suggesting that if this marriage is shown to be fraudulent, the children's welfare should be evaluated by proper authorities. Sam stood up. Your Honor, may I speak? You'll have your turn, Mr. Thornton. Sit down. Sam sat, his hands clenched into fists. Blackwood called his witnesses. The hotel owner from Silver Springs who confirmed he'd refused the Thorntons a room. The store owner who'd watched the exchange on his porch. A ranch hand who'd been let go from Blackwood's property and was willing to say whatever his former employer wanted. Each one painted a picture of desperation and convenience. A lonely widower and a homeless woman making a deal that benefited them both, but had nothing to do with genuine affection. Then it was Sam's turn. He stood before the judge, his hat in his hands, his voice steady. Your Honor, I ain't going to lie to you. I met Clara on New Year's Eve. I'd been trying for hours to find shelter for my children, and nobody in Silver Springs would help us. People are scared of Blackwood. They know what happens to folks who cross him. That's an outrageous accusation, Blackwood sputtered. Let him finish, the judge said. Sam took a breath. Clara was the only person that night who showed us kindness. She didn't know us nothing. But when she saw my children freezing on that porch, she stopped to help. She held my daughter Lily when she was crying. She comforted my son Will when he was scared. His voice grew rough. I'd been alone for 4 years, trying to be both father and mother to 5 children, failing at both. When Clara offered to help, I said yes, not because I wanted free labor, but because I saw something in her. Strength, kindness, the ability to love children who weren't her own. And do you love her, Mr. Thornton? Sam was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I didn't at first. I won't lie about that. But I've watched her these past weeks. Watched her work until her hands bled without complaint. Watched her hold my son through his nightmares. Watched her win over my children one by one, even the ones who didn't want to be won. He turned and looked at Clara. Do I love her? Yes. I reckon I do. Not the way poets write about maybe. But the real kind. The kind that's built on respect and gratitude and choosing to be there day after day, even when it's hard. Clara's eyes filled with tears. Your Honor, I'd like to speak. Everyone turned. Grace had stood up, her chin lifted, her voice clear and strong. Young lady, this isn't a public forum, Judge Crawford said. Please, Your Honor, these are my brothers and sisters they're talking about. Don't I get a say in my own family's future? The judge studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Very well. Briefly. Grace walked to the front of the courtroom, her hands shaking, but her voice steady. My name is Grace Elizabeth Thornton. I'm 14 years old. My mama died 4 years ago, and I've been taking care of my brothers and sisters ever since. She looked at Blackwood with cold fury. You want to know if Clara is good for our family, I'll tell you. When she first came, I hated her. I thought she was trying to replace my mama. I was rude to her and mean, and I did everything I could to push her away. Her voice cracked. But she didn't leave. She just kept showing up, kept being patient, kept loving us even when we didn't love her back. Grace turned to the judge. My brother Will has nightmares every night. He's had them since he was old enough to understand that our mama died when he was born. He thinks it's his fault. Clara sits with him for hours telling him it's not helping him believe it. Tears were streaming down her face now. My sister Lily never knew our mama. She's been looking for one her whole life. Clara lets her call her mama without ever trying to erase the woman who came before. And you, Miss Thornton, the judge asked gently. How do you feel about Mrs. Thornton? Grace looked at Clara and her face crumpled. I feel like I finally got to be a kid again. I feel like someone's got my back. I feel like... She wiped her eyes. I feel like our family finally got a chance to heal. The courtroom was silent. Even Blackwood looked uncomfortable. Then Will's small voice piped up. Can I talk to? He'd already left his seat, walking toward the front with his stuffed rabbit clutched in his arms. Ruth tried to stop him, but he slipped past her. Miss Clara's my mama now, he told the judge solemnly. She said I ain't bad. She said it ain't my fault about the first mama. She holds me when I'm scared. Will, Sam started, and she makes really good pancakes, better than Ruth's. Don't tell Ruth I said that. A ripple of laughter went through the courtroom. Even Judge Crawford's stern face softened. She's staying with us, Will continued, his small voice fierce. You can't take her away. We need her. One by one, the other children stood. Hannah speaking quietly about the books Clara had promised her. Sarah talking about the scar on her forehead and how Clara had stitched it with steady hands. Lily reaching for Clara's hand and holding on tight. "Your Honor." Ruth Hawkins rose from her seat, and Clara felt a shock of surprise. "May I speak?" The judge nodded. Ruth walked forward, her back straight, her face set. "I've worked for the Thornton family for 30 years. I loved Mary Thornton like she was my own daughter. When she died, I swore I'd never let another woman into this house." She looked at Clara. "When Sam brought this stranger home, I did everything I could to drive her away. I gave her the hardest work. I criticized everything she did. I made her life miserable." Her voice grew thick. "But she didn't quit. She didn't give up. She worked until her hands bled and never said a word of complaint. She showed kindness to these children when she had every reason to be bitter. She showed strength when most folks would have crumbled." Ruth turned back to the judge. "Mary Thornton was delicate. This life broke her. But Clara Thornton is strong. Strong enough to survive out here. Strong enough to raise these children. Strong enough to love a family that didn't want to love her back." She lifted her chin. "I was wrong about her. And any judge who can't see what she's worth don't deserve to wear that robe." The courtroom erupted. Blackwood was shouting objections. The children were crying. Sam had crossed to stand beside Clara, his hand finding hers. Judge Crawford banged his gavel. "Order! I will have order in this courtroom." Slowly, the chaos subsided. The judge sat back in his chair, his expression thoughtful. "I've been on the bench for 22 years. I've seen marriages of every kind, love matches that ended in hatred, arranged unions that grew into genuine partnerships. I've learned that the circumstances of a marriage matter far less than what the people in it choose to make of it." He looked at Clara and Sam. "Mr. and Mrs. Thornton, your marriage was unconventional. It was hasty. It was born of desperation and circumstance. But based on everything I've heard today from family, from friends, from children who clearly love you both, it is also genuine." Clara's breath caught. "Therefore, I find no evidence of fraud. This marriage is valid and will remain so. Mr. Blackwood, your petition is denied." The children cheered. Sam pulled Clara into his arms, and she buried her face against his chest, sobbing with relief. "This isn't over, Thornton." Blackwood's voice cut through the celebration. His face was purple with rage. "You think you've won? You've just made things worse. I will have that ranch, one way or another." "Get out of my courtroom, Blackwood," Judge Crawford said coldly, "before I have you removed." Blackwood stalked out, his daughter trailing behind him. But before Victoria left, she turned and caught Clara's eye. There was something in her expression, not hatred, something else, pity maybe, or warning. Then she was gone, and Clara was surrounded by children, by Ruth's gruff embrace, by Sam's steady presence beside her. They'd won. But as Clara looked toward the door where Blackwood had disappeared, she couldn't shake the feeling that the real battle was just beginning. Chapter. The ride home from Helena should have felt like a victory parade. They'd won. The marriage was legal. The children were safe. But Clara couldn't shake the chill that had settled in her bones when Blackwood made his threat. This isn't over. Sam must have felt it too, because he drove the wagon faster than usual, his eyes constantly scanning the horizon. "Papa, slow down," Sarah complained. "You're bouncing us all over the place." "Sorry, sweetheart. Just eager to get home." Clara put her hand on his arm. "Sam, whatever he's planning, we'll face it together." He looked at her, and she saw the fear he was trying to hide. "I should have ended this years ago. Should have found a way to stop him before it got this far. You've been raising 5 children alone. You did what you had to do to survive. And now you're caught in the middle of it." "I'm not caught. I chose this. I chose you." Clara squeezed his arm. "Thorntons don't show fear, remember." The ghost of a smile crossed his face. "You're learning." They arrived home just before sunset. Ruth had stayed behind to keep the house running, and she met them at the door with relief written across her weathered face. "Thank God. I've been worried sick. How did it go?" "We won," Sam said. Judge threw out Blackwood's complaint. Ruth closed her eyes briefly, her lips moving in what might have been a prayer. "And Blackwood? How did he take it?" "About as well as you'd expect. Made threats. Stormed out. Then it ain't over." "No, it ain't." That night after the children were in bed, Sam called a meeting in the kitchen. Clara, Ruth, and the ranch's 3 remaining hands gathered around the table, their faces grim in the lamplight. "I ain't going to lie to you," Sam said. "Blackwood's going to make a move. I don't know when, I don't know how, but it's coming. I need everyone on alert. Nobody goes anywhere alone. We keep weapons close and eyes open." "What kind of move?" asked Tom, the oldest of the hands. "Could be anything. Fences cut, cattle scattered, buildings burned. He's done it all before to other ranchers. Most of them sold out rather than fight." "We ain't selling," Ruth said firmly. "No, we ain't, but I need everyone to understand the risk. If things get bad, if any of you want to leave, I won't hold it against you." The 3 hands exchanged glances. Then Tom spoke for all of them. "We've worked this ranch for years, Mr. Thornton. Ain't no jumped-up land grabber going to run us off." Sam nodded, his throat working. "Thank you, all of you." Clara watched him as the meeting broke up. He looked exhausted. Not just tired, but worn down to the bone. The past weeks had taken everything out of him, and now he was facing the prospect of a war he might not win. She waited until they were alone, then took his hand. "You need to rest, Sam. You can't fight if you're running on empty." "I can't rest. Not with Blackwood out there planning God knows what." "One night, just one night. Let the hands keep watch. Let yourself breathe." He looked at her, and she saw something shift in his expression, something vulnerable that he usually kept hidden. "Stay with me tonight," he said quietly. Not like that. Just stay. I don't want to be alone." Clara's heart clenched. "I'll stay." They went upstairs together, and for the first time since their wedding night, Clara lay down beside her husband in the same bed. They didn't touch except for their hands, fingers intertwined in the darkness. "I'm scared," Sam admitted. "Not for me. For the children. For you." "I know. If something happens to me, promise me you'll take care of them. Promise me you'll get them somewhere safe." "Nothing's going to happen to you. Promise me, Clara." She squeezed his hand. "I promise. But I also promise that I'm going to fight like hell to make sure it never comes to that." He turned to look at her in the dim light. "How did I get so lucky? Finding you on that porch." "Reckon we found each other. 2 broken people who needed putting back together." "You're not broken. You're the strongest person I know." Clara felt tears prick her eyes. "So are you Sam Thornton? Don't you forget it." She fell asleep with his hand in hers, and for a few hours she let herself believe everything might be all right. The attack came 3 days later. Sam was out checking the north fence line when his horse spooked at a snake and threw him. He hit the ground hard, his arm taking the brunt of the fall. Tom found him an hour later, barely conscious, his left arm bent at an angle that made Clara's stomach turn. "Get him inside," she ordered, her voice steady, despite the terror clawing at her chest. "Ruth, I need hot water and clean cloth. Hannah, get my medical kit." They laid Sam on the kitchen table, his face gray with pain. Clara cut away his sleeve and examined the arm, her hands sure and steady, even as her heart raced. "It's broken. Clean break, thank God. I'll have to set it." "You've done this before?" Ruth asked. "I've watched it done. That's going to have to be enough." Sam grabbed her hand with his good one. "Clara, if you can't—" "Hush. I set Sarah's head back together, didn't I? This ain't any different." She met his eyes. "Trust me." "I do." Clara took a deep breath. Tom, hold his shoulder. Ruth, be ready with the splint. Sam, bite down on this. She handed him a folded piece of leather. This is going to hurt. She didn't warn him when she moved, just pulled and twisted in one smooth motion, feeling the bone slide back into place. Sam's scream was muffled by the leather, his body arching off the table. Then it was over, and Clara was binding the splint in place with shaking hands. There, done. Sam spit out the leather, panting. Damn, woman, you could have warned me. And give you time to tense up. No thank you. Clara wiped her hands on her apron. You're going to be fine, but you need to rest that arm for at least 6 weeks. 6 weeks? I can't run a ranch with one arm for 6 weeks. Then I'll run it for you. Sam stared at her. Clara, you don't know. I'll learn, same as I learned everything else. She bent down and kissed his forehead. Rest now, the ranch isn't going anywhere. Over the next week, Clara discovered reserves of strength she didn't know she had. She rose before dawn and worked until after dark. She learned to give orders, to make decisions, to solve problems as they arose. The hands respected her, Ruth supported her, and the children pitched in wherever they could. Grace was her right hand, stepping up in ways that made Clara proud. The girl handled the household while Clara dealt with the ranch, and between them they kept everything running. You're amazing, Sam told her one evening, watching from his chair as she reviewed the accounts. His arm was healing well, but he was still too weak to do much beyond supervise. I'm exhausted, Clara corrected. But I'm not quitting. I know you're not. That's what makes you amazing. She looked up from the ledger, and something passed between them. Something warm and real that had nothing to do with convenience or arrangement. When you're better, she said softly, we should talk. About us. About what this marriage is becoming. I'd like that. The moment was broken by pounding hooves in the yard. Clara grabbed the rifle from above the fireplace and moved to the window. It's Tom, she said, relief flooding through her. Something's wrong. She met him at the door. His face was pale, his horse lathered with sweat. Riders on the North Ridge, ma'am. 6 of them. They're cutting the fence line. Clara's blood ran cold. Blackwood's men? Has to be. I recognized Wade Tucker in the lead. Sam struggled to his feet. I'm coming. You can barely stand, Clara said sharply. Stay here with the children. Clara, I'm not letting you. You're not letting me do anything. I'm choosing to go. She checked the rifle, making sure it was loaded. This is our home, Sam. I'm going to defend it. At least take Tom with you. Tom and every hand we've got. Clara met his eyes. Keep the children safe. Lock the doors. Don't open them for anyone but me. She didn't give him time to argue, just grabbed her coat and headed for the barn, her heart pounding, but her mind clear. 6 riders. They were outnumbered. But Clara had learned something in her months on this ranch. Numbers didn't always matter. What mattered was who was willing to fight hardest for what they loved. And nobody loved this land more than she did. They reached the north fence line in 20 minutes, riding hard through the cold March night. Clara saw them immediately. 6 figures on horseback working by lantern light to tear down the fence that marked the boundary of Thornton land. That's close enough, she called out, reining in her horse. You're on private property. Wade Tucker looked up, a smirk spreading across his face. Well, well, Mrs. Thornton herself. Where's your husband hiding behind his wife's skirts? My husband's recovering from an injury, but I don't need him to deal with the likes of you. Big words from a woman with 3 hands against 6 of us. Clara cocked the rifle. Want to find out if I can back them up? Tucker's smirk faltered slightly. He'd expected to find the ranch undefended. A crippled owner and a woman in charge. Easy pickings. He hadn't expected her to come at him with a loaded weapon and ice in her eyes. Mr. Blackwood just wants what's rightfully his, Tucker said. The water rights belong to him, always have. The water rights belong to the Thornton family, legal and proper. Your boss tried to steal them in court and failed. Now he's trying to steal them with force. That makes him a criminal, and you, his accomplices. Nobody's stealing nothing. We're just adjusting the boundary markers. In the middle of the night with wire cutters. Clara aimed the rifle at his chest. I'll give you one chance. Leave now and I won't file charges. Stay, and I'll put a bullet in you, and let the law sort out the rest. Tucker laughed. You won't shoot. You're just a woman. Clara fired. The bullet whizzed past Tucker's ear close enough to knock his hat off. The horses scattered, men cursing and grabbing for their reins. That was a warning, Clara said calmly. The next one won't miss. Tucker's face had gone white. He stared at her like he was seeing her for the first time. You're crazy. Probably. But I'm also a dead shot. My husband taught me. She raised the rifle again. Now get off my land. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Tucker jerked his head at his men. Let's go. This ain't worth getting killed over. They rode away into the darkness, and Clara let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely lower the rifle. Ma'am, Tom said quietly, that was the bravest thing I ever saw. That was the stupidest thing I ever did, Clara replied. If he'd called my bluff. He didn't. That's what matters. Clara turned her horse toward home, her mind already racing ahead. Tucker would report back to Blackwood. This wouldn't be the end. It would just make him angrier, more desperate, more dangerous. She was right. 3 nights later, Clara woke to the smell of smoke. Fire. She was out of bed and running before her mind fully caught up. Sam Fire. The barn was already engulfed when they stumbled outside. Orange flames clawed at the night sky, and the screaming of terrified horses cut through the roar of the blaze. The horses! Sam shouted. We have to get them out. He ran toward the barn, forgetting his injured arm, forgetting everything but the animals trapped inside. Clara ran after him, grabbing his good arm. You can't go in there. My horses are in there. And you'll die if you try to save them. She held on with all her strength. Tom and the others are already getting them out. Look. It was true. The hands had reached the barn first, fighting through the smoke to release the panicked horses. One by one, the animals burst through the doors, wild-eyed and coughing but alive. Is that all of them? Clara shouted. All but Thunder, Tom yelled back. He's in the back stall. I can't reach him. Thunder, Sam's horse, the one that had been with him since before Mary died. Sam moved toward the barn, and this time, Clara couldn't stop him. Sam, no! But he was already gone, disappearing into the wall of smoke and flame. The next minutes were the longest of Clara's life. She organized the bucket brigade, shouting orders, directing the hands and children as they fought to contain the blaze. Grace worked beside her face, streaked with soot, passing buckets with grim determination. Papa's still in there, Hannah whimpered. He's coming out, Clara said. He's coming out. Please, God, let him come out. And then he did. Sam emerged from the inferno with Thunder's reins in his good hand, both of them coughing and staggering, but alive. He made it 10 feet from the barn before his legs gave out, and Clara was there to catch him. You fool, she sobbed, holding him tight. You stupid, brave fool. Couldn't let him burn, Sam gasped. He's family. The barn was a total loss. By the time the fire burned itself out, nothing remained but smoking rubble and the acrid smell of destruction. Clara stood in the gray dawn, surveying the damage rage building in her chest like a second fire. This was Blackwood, she said quietly. Can't prove it, Tom replied. The hell I can't. Clara turned to face the smoking ruins. He's gone too far. Threatening us is one thing. Destroying our property, putting my family at risk. She clenched her fists. I'm going to end this. Today. Clara. Sam caught her arm. What are you planning? I'm going to town. I'm going to file a report with Deputy Marshal Morrison. And then I'm going to pay a visit to Cornelius Blackwood. You can't confront him alone. Watch me." Sam grabbed her shoulders, forcing her to face him. "Clara, listen to me. Blackwood is dangerous. He's killed people before, I'm sure of it. He's just never been caught." "Then it's time someone caught him." "Not you. Not alone." Clara looked into his eyes and saw the fear there. Fear for her. Fear of losing her. "I'm not going to let him destroy everything we've built," she said. "I'm not going to let him win." "Neither am I. But we do this together or not at all." Sam squeezed her shoulders. "Promise me, Clara. Promise me you won't do anything stupid." She wanted to argue, wanted to ride to Blackwood's ranch and put a bullet between his eyes. But she saw the truth in Sam's face. This wasn't just about her anymore. She had a family now, people who depended on her. "Together," she agreed. "We do this together." They rode into Silver Springs 2 hours later. Clara had expected to have to convince Deputy Marshal Morrison of Blackwood's guilt. What she found instead was chaos. The deputy's office was packed with people. Morrison himself was talking urgently to a well-dressed man Clara didn't recognize, and sitting in the corner, hands bound, was Wade Tucker. "Mrs. Thornton," Morrison looked up with relief. "I was just about to send someone to fetch you. We caught Tucker trying to flee town with a can of kerosene and a bag of Blackwood's money." Clara's heart stopped. "You caught him?" "Miss Victoria Blackwood came to us last night, told us everything. Her father's been terrorizing ranchers for years, burning them out, threatening them until they sell cheap. She's agreed to testify against him." Clara remembered Victoria's look in the courtroom, the pity, the warning. She hadn't been pitying Clara. She'd been pitying herself, trapped in her father's schemes. Where's Blackwood now? "Being arrested as we speak. The territorial marshal rode out this morning with a dozen men." Morrison's face was grim. "He won't be bothering you anymore, Mrs. Thornton. I give you my word." Clara's legs went weak. Sam caught her before she could fall, pulling her against his chest. "It's over," she breathed. "It's really over." "It's over," Sam confirmed. "You did it, Clara. You beat him." "We beat him. All of us. Together." They stood there in the middle of the deputy's office, holding each other while chaos swirled around them. And for the first time in months, Clara let herself feel something other than fear. She felt hope. The news spread through the territory like wildfire. Cornelius Blackwood arrested for arson, intimidation, and conspiracy. Wade Tucker and 3 other men confessing to years of crimes in exchange for lighter sentences. Victoria Blackwood, the hero who'd finally found the courage to stand against her father. People came to the Thornton Ranch in droves. Neighbors who'd been too scared to help before now brought lumber and nails to rebuild the barn. The same hotel owner who'd refused them a room on New Year's Eve showed up with a wagon full of supplies and an apology Clara didn't know how to accept. "I was wrong," he said, hat in hands. "About you, about Sam, about everything. I hope you can forgive me." Clara looked at this man who'd let her children freeze rather than risk Blackwood's anger. Part of her wanted to turn him away, but a larger part understood. "Fear makes cowards of us all," she said. "I know that better than most." She accepted his supplies. She accepted all of them. Because that was what it meant to be part of a community. You forgave. You moved forward. You built something together. The new barn rose in 3 weeks, bigger and better than the one that had burned. Sam's arm healed. The children laughed more easily, and Clara found herself looking toward the future instead of constantly guarding against the present. One evening, as spring finally began to melt, the last of the winter snow, Sam found her sitting on the porch watching the sunset paint the mountains in shades of gold and rose. "Penny for your thoughts," he said, settling beside her. "I was thinking about how different everything is now. From that night on, the porch in Silver Springs." She shook her head. "It feels like a lifetime ago." It was. A whole lifetime condensed into a few months. Sam took her hand. "Clara, I need to tell you something." "What?" He was quiet for a moment, gathering his words. "When I asked you to marry me, I told myself it was practical. convenient, a solution to a problem. I convinced myself that was all it was. And now I know I was lying to myself. He turned to face her, and she saw the truth in his eyes before he spoke. I love you, Clara. Not because you're useful, or because you help with the children, or because you saved our ranch. I love you because you're brave and kind and stubborn as hell. I love you because you make me want to be better than I am. Clara's heart swelled until she thought it might burst. I love you too, Sam Thornton. I think I have for a while now. I was just too scared to admit it. He leaned in and kissed her. Not the brief, chaste kiss from their wedding night. This was something else entirely. Something real and deep and full of promise. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Sam pulled something from his pocket. A ring. Simple gold with a small sapphire that caught the fading light. This was my grandmother's, he said. She gave it to my grandfather when he asked her to marry him. Said she wanted to be the one doing the asking. He smiled. I think she'd have liked you. Sam, I know we're already married, but I want to do this right. I want to ask you proper the way I should have from the beginning. He slipped off the porch and knelt in front of her, holding up the ring. Clara Josephine Thornton, will you stay married to me? Not because you have to, not because it's convenient, but because you love me as much as I love you. Clara laughed through her tears. Get up, you fool. You'll ruin your knees. Not until you answer. Yes. She pulled him up and kissed him again. Yes, 1,000 times yes. He slid the ring onto her finger next to the simple band she'd worn since New Year's Eve. 2 rings now, one for the arrangement they'd made, one for the love they'd chosen. Behind them, the front door burst open. Papa's kissing Mama, Lily shrieked. Papa's kissing Mama on the porch. The other children tumbled out, all noise and excitement and joy. Ruth followed, wiping her eyes with her apron and pretending she wasn't crying. Clara looked around at her family, her husband, her children, her home. 6 months ago she'd been nobody, a discarded widow with nothing but 17 cents and a broken heart. Now she was Clara Thornton, wife, mother, fighter, and she was exactly where she was meant to be. Spring melted into summer, and summer ripened into fall. The Thornton Creek Ranch flourished in ways it hadn't for years. Without Blackwood's constant harassment, the cattle grew fat, the crops came in strong, and the creek ran clear and sweet through the heart of the property. But it wasn't just the land that healed. Clara watched her family transform day by day like flowers opening after a long winter. Grace started laughing again. Real laughter that came from her belly instead of the polite sounds she'd been making for years. She'd found a book of poetry in Clara's trunk and devoured it, then asked for more. Clara ordered 3 new volumes from a catalog in Helena, and the light in Grace's eyes when they arrived was worth every penny. Hannah had come out of her shell entirely. She still preferred books to people, but she'd started reading aloud to her siblings in the evenings, her quiet voice bringing stories to life. She had a gift for it, Clara realized, a way of making words dance. Sarah remained wild, but now her wildness had direction. Sam had started teaching her to ride properly, and she took to it like she'd been born in a saddle. Clara caught her talking to the horses, sometimes whispering secrets into their ears, and didn't say a word. Every child needed somewhere to put their thoughts. Lily had stopped asking if Clara was really her mama. She'd decided the answer for herself, and now she introduced Clara to everyone they met as my mama who found us in a snowstorm. The story grew more elaborate with each telling, but Clara didn't correct her. Some truths were better than facts. And Will, sweet, haunted Will, who had carried his mother's death like a stone around his neck. His nightmares had finally stopped. It happened gradually then, all at once. One night Clara realized she'd slept through until dawn without being woken by screams. Then another night. Then a week. Then a month. "Mama," Will said one morning over breakfast. "I dreamed about the first mama last night." Clara's heart clenched. "What did you dream, sweetheart?" She was smiling. "She said she was happy I found you." Will took a bite of his eggs, completely matter-of-fact. "She said thank you for taking care of us." Clara had to leave the table. She stood on the porch, tears streaming down her face, and let herself feel the full weight of what they'd built together. Sam found her there a few minutes later. "You all right?" "I'm better than all right." She wiped her eyes and smiled at him. "I think Mary just gave us her blessing." Sam pulled her close, his chin resting on top of her head. "She'd have liked you." "I know I keep saying that, but it's true. You're nothing like her, and somehow that's exactly what this family needed." "Different doesn't mean better." "No, it means right. You're right for us, Clara. Right for this place, this life." He kissed her forehead. "Right for me." They stood together watching the sunrise paint the mountains, and Clara thought about how far she'd come. A year ago, she'd been standing on a train platform in Philadelphia, watching her world collapse. Now she was standing on her own porch, wrapped in her husband's arms, mother to 5 children who loved her. Life had a strange way of working out. The harvest came in late September, better than anyone had predicted. Sam hired extra hands to bring in the crops, and the house was full of noise and activity for weeks. Clara worked alongside Ruth in the kitchen, cooking for an army of hungry workers, her hands moving with confidence she'd earned through months of practice. "You've come a long way from that skinny thing who didn't know which end of a broom to use," Ruth observed one afternoon. Clara laughed. "Thanks to you. I didn't do nothing but make your life miserable. You tested me, made sure I was strong enough to stay." Clara bumped Ruth's shoulder with her own. "I'm grateful for it, even if I didn't feel that way at the time." Ruth was quiet for a moment, then gruffly, "Mary would have been proud of what you've done here, of who you've become." It was the highest compliment Ruth had ever given her. Clara tucked it away in her heart like a precious stone. October brought the first frost and news from town that made Clara's breath catch. Cornelius Blackwood had been sentenced to 20 years in territorial prison. His ranch had been seized and divided among the families he'd driven off over the years. Victoria Blackwood had sold her share and moved to San Francisco, where Clara heard she'd married a banker's son who adored her. "It's really over," Sam said when they heard the news. "All of it." "Not all of it." Clara took his hand. "The good parts are just beginning." That night, after the children were asleep, Clara told Sam what she'd been suspecting for weeks. "I'm late," she said quietly. "By nearly 2 months now." Sam stared at her. "You mean?" I think I'm carrying your child." The silence stretched between them. Clara watched the emotions play across his face. Shock, wonder, fear, joy. All of it tangled together in a way she understood completely. "Clara," his voice was rough, "are you sure?" "As sure as I can be without a doctor. But I know my own body, Sam. I've never been this late before. Never felt like this before." "Like what?" "Like something's growing inside me. Something that's ours." Sam pulled her into his arms and she felt him shaking. Crying, she realized. Her strong, stoic husband was crying. "I thought I'd never have this again," he whispered. "After Mary. After losing her. I swore I'd never put another woman through that." "You're not putting me through anything. I want this, Sam. I want your baby. I want our family to grow." "But what if something goes wrong? What if—" Clara pulled back and took his face in her hands. "Listen to me. I am not Mary. I'm strong and healthy and stubborn as hell. You said so yourself." She kissed him softly. "I'm going to have this baby, Sam Thornton, and you're going to stop worrying and start being happy." He laughed wet and broken. "Happy? Yeah, I think I can manage that." They decided to wait until Thanksgiving to tell the children. The holiday had become important to Clara since arriving at the ranch. A day to count blessings, to gather around the table to remember how far they'd come. The week before Thanksgiving, Clara stood in her kitchen making lists and preparations when Grace appeared in the doorway. "Can I help?" "Always." Clara handed her a bowl of apples. "These need peeling for the pie." They worked in companionable silence for a while. Then Grace spoke. "Mama Clara?" Clara looked up. Grace had started calling her that a few months back. Mama Clara. A way of honoring both the mother she'd lost and the one she'd found. "What is it, sweetheart?" "I've been thinking about something. About what you said when you first got here. About how you couldn't have children. How Thomas's family threw you out because of it." Clara's hands stilled. "That was a long time ago." "I know, but I was wondering." Grace bit her lip. "Are you sad that you never got to have babies of your own, that you got stuck with us instead?" The question hit Clara like a punch to the chest. She set down her knife and crossed to where Grace stood, taking the girl's face in her flower-covered hands. "Look at me, Grace Thornton. Look at me." Grace met her eyes, and Clara saw the fear there. The old fear of not being enough, of being a burden, of being something other than wanted. "I am not stuck with you. I chose you. All of you. And if I never have a baby of my own blood, I will still be the luckiest woman alive because I have you." She wiped a tear from Grace's cheek. "You are my daughter. Not my stepdaughter, not my husband's child, mine. Do you understand?" Grace nodded, her face crumpling. "I love you, Mama Clara." "I love you too, sweet girl. So much it hurts sometimes." They held each other in the kitchen, covered in flour and tears, while the autumn sun streamed through the window. And Clara thought about the secret she was carrying, the new life growing inside her, and wondered how she could possibly love anyone more than she already loved these children. But love, she was learning, wasn't like that. It didn't divide. It multiplied. Thanksgiving morning dawned clear and cold. Clara woke early, her stomach churning with a mixture of morning sickness and nerves. Today was the day. The kitchen was already busy when she came downstairs. Ruth was basting the turkey, Hannah was setting the table, and Sarah was attempting to steal pieces of pie that hadn't even been cut yet. "Out of my kitchen," Ruth ordered, swatting Sarah with a towel. "You'll wait like everyone else." "But I'm starving." "You're always starving. Go help your papa bring in the extra chairs." Clara surveyed her family with a full heart. Will was playing with his wooden soldiers in the corner. Lily was helping Hannah by rearranging the silverware. Grace was carrying in the good dishes Clara had found in a trunk in the attic, the ones that had belonged to Sam's mother. This was what happiness looked like. Not grand gestures or perfect moments, but ordinary days filled with ordinary love. Sam came in from the cold, stomping snow off his boots. "Chairs are set up. Anything else need doing?" "Just waiting for the bird," Ruth said. "Should be ready in another hour." Clara caught Sam's eye and nodded slightly. He understood. After dinner, they'd share their news. The meal was perfect. Turkey and stuffing and mashed potatoes and gravy. Green beans that Sarah complained about and Lily pushed around her plate. Fresh bread that Hannah had helped make. And 3 kinds of pie that Ruth had been working on for days. "I'm going to explode," Sarah groaned, leaning back in her chair. "Ruth, you've killed me." "Death by pie. What a way to go," Tom joked from the end of the table. The ranch hands had been invited to join them, part of the family for this one day. "Before we all expire," Sam said, standing, "I think it's time for the thankful speeches." This was a tradition Clara had started, borrowed from her own childhood. Each person around the table had to say one thing they were grateful for. "I'll start," Sam said. "I'm thankful for second chances, for finding light when everything seemed dark, for this family old and new." Ruth was next. "I'm thankful for stubborn women who don't know when to quit." She shot Clara a look. "Even when they're told to." Grace took a breath. "I'm thankful that I got to be a kid again this year. that I have someone else to share the load." She smiled at Clara. "I'm thankful for my Mama Clara." Hannah spoke quietly. "I'm thankful for books, and for a mama who understands why they matter." "I'm thankful for horses," Sarah announced, "and for not having to wear dresses every day, and for Mama not making me act like a lady." Will thought for a moment. "I'm thankful the bad dreams stopped, and that the first Mama sent the second Mama to find us." Lily bounced in her seat. "I'm thankful for everything, for Mama and Papa and Ruth and Grace and Hannah and Sarah and Will and the chickens and Thunder, and—" "We get the idea, sweetheart," Sam laughed. Finally, all eyes turned to Clara. She stood slowly, her heart pounding. Sam reached for her hand and held it tight. "I'm thankful for a lot of things this year," she said. "For finding a place where I belong. For children who taught me how to love without conditions. For a husband who saw something in me when I couldn't see it myself." She paused, her free hand moving to rest on her stomach. "And I'm thankful for new beginnings, for babies yet to be born, for families that keep growing." Silence. Then Ruth gasped. "Clara, are you saying what I think you're saying?" Clara smiled through her tears. "I'm saying there's going to be another Thornton come spring, if God's willing and the creek don't rise." The table erupted. Grace was on her feet, hugging Clara so hard she could barely breathe. Hannah was crying. Sarah was shouting questions about whether she'd get a brother or sister. Will looked confused until Lily screamed, "Mama's having a baby!" And then his face split into the biggest smile Clara had ever seen. "I get to be a big brother," he yelled. "A real big brother." Sam pulled Clara into his arms, his voice rough in her ear. "You're amazing, you know that. Takes one to know one." Ruth was already planning. "We'll need to get the cradle down from the attic. And baby clothes. Lord knows Mary's things are still up there somewhere. And we'll need extra blankets and—" "Ruth." Clara caught the older woman's hand. "We have months yet. Just let's enjoy today." Ruth's eyes filled with tears. "I never thought I'd see another baby in this house. Never thought." She shook her head. "Mary would be so happy." "I hope so. I really hope so." That night, after the dishes were done, and the children were in bed, and the house was quiet, Clara stood at the window of her bedroom, looking out at the moonlit mountains. Sam came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist, his hands resting gently on her stomach. "What are you thinking about?" "Everything. Nothing." She leaned back against him. "I was thinking about the night we met. Standing on that porch in the cold, thinking my life was over. Instead, it was just beginning. Strange how that works, isn't it? The worst night of my life led to the best days I've ever known. I think that's how it goes for a lot of folks. You have to hit bottom before you can start climbing back up." Clara turned in his arms, looking up at his face. This man who'd started as a stranger and become her everything. "Sam, whatever happens next, whatever challenges come our way, I want you to know something." "What's that?" "I would do it all again. Every bit of it. The cold, and the fear, and the hard work, and Ruth making my life miserable. All of it. Because it led me here. To you. To them. To this life I never knew I wanted." Sam kissed her forehead. "I would too. Every bit of it." They stood together in the moonlight, two people who'd found each other in the darkness and built something beautiful from the wreckage of their separate sorrows. Outside, the wind whispered through the pines, and somewhere in the distance, a coyote howled. Life on the frontier was hard, and it always would be. But for the first time in her life, Clara wasn't afraid of hard. She'd learned that hard things could be survived, overcome, transformed into something precious. The baby came in late March, on a night when the last snow of winter was melting, and the first green shoots of spring were pushing through the mud. Clara labored for 12 hours, Ruth and Grace by her side, while Sam paced downstairs and wore a path in the floorboards. When the cry finally came strong and lusty, Clara wept with relief and joy. "It's a girl," Ruth said, placing the tiny bundle in Clara's arms. "A beautiful, healthy girl." Clara looked down at her daughter's face. Dark hair like Sam's. A stubborn set to the chin that was pure Thornton. But the eyes, when they finally opened, were Clara's own. Blue as a summer sky. "She's perfect," Clara whispered. Sam burst through the door, unable to wait any longer. He crossed to the bed and stopped, his breath catching at the sight of his wife and newborn daughter. "Clara, come meet your daughter Sam." He sat on the edge of the bed, his big hands trembling as Clara placed the baby in his arms. For a long moment, he just stared at her, tears streaming down his weathered cheeks. "She's got your eyes," he said. "And your stubbornness. I can already tell." "What will we name her?" Clara had been thinking about this for months. "I'd like to call her Hope. Hope Mary Thornton. For the mother who came before, and for what this family gave me when I had nothing left." Sam's face crumpled. "Hope. That's perfect." The door creaked open, and 5 faces appeared in the gap. Grace, Hannah, Sarah, Will, and Lily, all crowding together trying to get a glimpse of their new sister. "Can we come in?" Grace asked. "Get in here." Clara laughed. "Come meet your sister." They tumbled into the room, gathering around the bed, their faces filled with wonder. Lily climbed up beside Clara, peering at the baby with enormous eyes. "She's so tiny," Lily breathed. "You were that tiny once," Ruth told her. "Was not." "Were too. I've got the blankets to prove it." Will edged closer, his expression uncertain. "Is she going to cry a lot?" "Probably," Clara said. "Babies do that, but you'll love her anyway." "I already do." He touched the baby's hand with one careful finger, and Hope's tiny fist closed around it. Will's face transformed with pure joy. "She's holding me. Papa, she's holding me." "She knows her big brother," Sam said. Sarah was already planning. "When can she ride a horse? I want to teach her." "Let's let her learn to walk first." Clara laughed. Grace was quiet, watching the scene with tears in her eyes. Clara reached out and took her hand. "You okay, sweetheart?" "I'm more than okay." Grace squeezed her hand. "I'm just grateful. For all of it. For you." "Me too, Grace. Me too." Ruth began shooing children toward the door. All right. Mama needs rest, and so does the baby. You'll have plenty of time to spoil her later." One by one they filed out, each one stopping to kiss Clara's cheek or touch the baby's head. Sam lingered until last, sitting beside Clara with Hope still cradled in his arms. "You did it," he said softly. "You gave me another daughter. We did it. Together. That's how we do everything now." He leaned in and kissed her, gentle and full of love. "I meant what I said, you know, on that first night, about needing a wife. And I meant what I said about needing a family. Looks like we both got what we needed. We got more than we needed." Clara looked at their daughter, at the man she loved, at the life they'd built from nothing but desperation and hope. "We got everything." Outside, the sun was rising over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose. A new day dawning on Thornton Creek Ranch. A new chapter beginning. Clara closed her eyes and let herself rest, her husband beside her, her daughter in his arms, her children safe in their beds. She thought about the woman she'd been a year and a half ago. Broken. Discarded. Nobody. She wasn't nobody anymore. She was Clara Thornton. Wife. Mother. Survivor. Fighter. She was loved and needed, and exactly where she belonged. And that she knew now was worth more than all the gold in Montana. The story of Clara and Sam didn't end there. It went on for years through good times and hard times, through more children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, through droughts and floods and the endless beautiful struggle of frontier life. But this part of the story, the part where a desperate widow and a lonely rancher found each other in a blizzard and built something real from the wreckage of their separate sorrows, this part ends here, on a spring morning with a new baby sleeping peacefully and a family gathered around and love enough to last forever. Some people say that happy endings only exist in fairy tales, that real life is harder, messier, more complicated than stories make it seem. But Clara knew better. Happy endings weren't given. They were earned through hard work and harder choices, through fighting for what mattered and refusing to give up. They weren't the end of struggle. They were the reward for surviving it. And she had earned every moment of hers. Outside the creek ran clear and sweet through Thorntonland, just as it had for 4 generations, just as it would for generations to come. This was home. This was family. This was love in all its complicated, imperfect, absolutely real beauty. And it was more than enough. It was everything.